we met in Mark Wollen's work and in his training, and he talks a lot about breaking the bond with the mother. But how I initially heard that prior to Mark was a mother wound. So whether it's a mother wound or breaking the bond with your early parents, you're breaking a bond with your mom, how can that relate to what we're talking about today in terms of symptoms?
Well, I think the same. Well, so Mark's work is so beautiful and profound. I love it dearly. And I brought him to Australia for a number of years, and he's going to be on the faculty. He does 3 presentations for the conference. We're so blessed with his presence, so profoundly blessed, because he's actually on sabbatical for 6 months, taking a rest after a really hectic schedule and completing his next book. But he's presenting at the conference, which we're profoundly grateful for. Mark's one of the most generous and concise and clear practitioners, trainers that work with understanding the 4 unconscious themes and inherited trauma. That's why his book's called It Didn't Start With You, because he realizes, it starts generations back. So when you talk about symptoms, so it could be, Mark talks really specifically in his book, It Didn't Start With You, about how to identify specifically breaks in the bond with the mother. And he speaks beautifully to my own core belief that and Hellinger's, that unless we are at peace with both our mother and father, irrespective of how horrendous they have been or might continue to be, unless we are at peace, hold them in a good place within ourselves, we're likely to have all kinds of symptoms, from the spectrum of really mild to really profound, unless we arrive at that place. And Barbara, you would know really well that it's not about saying, oh, it was so fun, what happened? It's just making peace with the fact that it did. It's that acceptance. It's like, yeah, because what's the alternative? The alternative to accepting that what happened is to deny it. And you can spend the next 50 years of your life, and believe me, people try to do it, denying that it did happen, wishing that it didn't happen, demanding that it should never have. And still, you can do that forever. And will it make the slightest sort of difference? Zero, zip, zilch. You can do it for the next 50 years, energetically. And many people are energetically, even if not physically, walking through life like this, stomping their feet energetically, don't physically, but you know the deal. They come from that internal stance, and it's all about it shouldn't have, it's unjust, it's unfair, I demand that it didn't, and you didn't give me what I wanted and needed when I was a child, and I still demand that you do it now, and if you don't give it to me, then someone else should. And God love us, we all do need and deserve that love. But if you're over 18, certainly if you're over 21, guess whose job it is now to take care of that? That would be you. That would be me. That would be end of story. Not mom and dad's job anymore. I like telling people, you got what you got. That's it. You got what you got. And your job, our job, is to make the best of things.
By just acknowledging, even if it's just that small good part, and just running with that best little part of that 2% of good of mom or dad, and
that's exactly
and strengthening on that.
That's exactly right. And Mark has a beautiful expression that he uses around that. I don't know if you've heard him say it. It's like, so often we aren't happy with what came from our parents. And so, we reject, or we don't like the flavor of the love that they are able to give us. And so we just sort of reject it out of hand. And I'm not sure how Mark says this, but it says, so there's an arrogance and a hubris in that. It's like, you're not giving me, we want acceptance for who we are, but we're not accepting our parents for who they are. In all their shabbiness and whatever it is, it's still about acceptance. And we reject the love that is available, which might be through deeds or words or finance or food or whatever it is. And Mark says, I think, if you put a cup under a dripping tap, it'll gradually fill up. But if you don't put the cup there, it'll never fill up. And that drip, even though it might be a drip, just falls on the ground and is wasted. And I think there's an arrogance in that. And many of us, and certainly I had to come to terms with an arrogance and a hubris and and again, that blind spot, Andrew, where we don't realize that we're sitting in demand that people should and ought to and ought not to have. and that they don't love me in the way that I want or need it. I want them to accept me and love me. It's like, how is what we're not doing towards them the same as what we're so angry at about that they're not doing for us?
You're
Really?
absolutely right.